This is the 2023 version and the third generation of the GMC Canyon. It's the AT4 trim level. And I'll tell you what, in my personal opinion, I think GMC has done a fantastic job here. When you think back to the first generation of the Canyon, it was more like a compact truck than it was a mid-size truck. Fully redesigned for 2023, it has a wider track. It is more capable off-road than it has ever been throughout its now 3 generations of time that has gone by since the truck first came out back in the early 2000s. And so we're going to take a look at what this truck has, what has changed, what it's capable of, and what you get for the sticker price. By the way, if you're interested in buying this exact truck or maybe another GMC Canyon for the 2023 model year, check out the link down in the description of the video. I borrowed this truck from my friends at Morgan Buick GMC, so check that out if you're interested in one of these models or maybe something else from the dealership. By the way, if you're curious about this exterior color, and I hope that the metallic portion is showing up nicely on the video, this is deep bronze metallic, and the interior is jet black with timber. We'll take a quick look at this, and we're going to take a closer look later in the video at the interior, but in case you were curious about that information, now you have it. When it comes to the overall design of the front end from this particular angle, you can definitely see the wider track on this truck. Doesn't have quite an overall narrow look as it did in the past. A more aggressive look than what it used to have. The headlights are going to have the IntelliBeam setup, so that's going to definitely help you out when you're driving down the road as far as how the lights operate. You won't have to worry about anything. If you don't want to, you can turn that feature on and off. LED headlights, we're going to have the fog lights here, and those red tow hooks down there. It's very pronounced that way when it comes to pulling out the Toyota Tacomas and all of the other mid-sized trucks, the Honda Ridgelines, the Frontiers from Nissan and so forth. Well, everyone's going to know right where to go to hook up. The large GMC logo here with the AT4 logo and nice looking grille. And you will notice that there is a forward facing camera here on this trim level. Quite a bit going on there. A very nice look, pronounced and aggressive when it comes to the overall lines of the hood. I believe this exterior color does a pretty good job of showing that on video. At least I hope it does. Obviously, this is a 4-wheel drive truck, and let's talk a little bit about tire and wheel size. Obviously, these are all-terrain tires, very capable off-road. We're going to have 265 on the width. I almost can't fit my hand all the way across. The 65 series sidewall, and it will be wrapped around the 18-inch wheels. Now, one thing that definitely separates this truck away from the Chevrolet version of it, the Colorado, is going to be what's under the hood. Not that it's a different engine, but there is only 1 horsepower and torque rating. And don't worry, we're not going to have the lesser of the 2 horsepower ratings for this engine. It makes 310 horsepower. The torque numbers come in at 430 pounds-feet, and it's mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission. And what about those MPGs? That's always an important thing to note. 17 city, 21 highway, 19 combined, and 5.3 gallons of gas is what GMC says you should use per every 100 miles you drive. And in case you were curious, how much gas can you put into this gas tank? It's a 21.4 gallon gas tank. And you'll find the body colored door handles. You're going to find the button right here. That is passive entry. So what happens is when you have the remote on your person, you can unlock and lock all 4 doors with that button. You will see that everything you likely expect to see is here. You have remote start right there. That works very well. In fact, I'll show you how easy that is. All you have to do is push the button twice. The truck's going to start right up, as you can hear, and then to shut the truck back down, all you have to do is push that button 1 time. And we will have the nice gloss black mirror caps here on these mirrors. You will notice the absence of a turn signal indicator built into these power adjustable side view mirrors, but you do have the blind spot monitoring right there. Cameras all over the truck, including right here under the mirrors. So quite a bit going on there, and we're just getting started. We know this truck is more capable off-road than it has ever been before. Let's talk about practical use. 1,580 pounds is what you will find for the payload, and depending on how the truck is equipped, it can tow up to 7,700 pounds. And I unintentionally just showed you that you do have a lockable tailgate here, but I will unlock that. It is dampened. We'll let that come down. So 6,000 to 7,700 pounds of towing capacity is quite impressive. And for the price point of this truck being around $53,000, you would expect that you're going to have a bed liner. And thankfully you do. And you do have a total of 8 different tie down points. You're going to have the 2 in the front, 2 in the rear on both sides. And then we'll have our 120 volt power outlet right here. Quite a bit of space within. And you have the airtight, let's see if we can get this to open for us, area right here built into the tailgate, so you actually could put ice in there and ice down drinks and snacks and whatever. There's a lot of different options. You also have a drain plug right here that is very difficult to get out, so I haven't pulled that out yet, but that will come out. Once you get it out, it probably isn't so difficult to get it out the next time you do that. But as you can see, there is a lot going on back here, a lot of versatility. The good news about that being airtight, obviously, is that it gives you a lot of options, a lot of features, a lot of functionality. And you do have the nice corner steps here on the bumper. They're not as big and deep as what we would see with the 1500s and up. So let me just do this. I still feel very sure-footed right there, depending on the angle at which I approach that with my foot, or put my foot in there. Not a big deal where that's concerned. I think that's going to work just fine. You can see that we do finish things off with the LED tail lights here. Gonna have the cab light up there and the sliding rear window. And while we took a brief look into the interior earlier, you will find some additional space back here in this back seat area. Very nice contrast stitching. Gonna have comfortable armrests. I always talk about the fact that pushing on the armrest like that doesn't always give you an idea of how comfortable it is. You really just need to put your arm on there. That gives it the ultimate armrest test. That's not really meant to rhyme. Decent sized door bins here, and we're gonna have the rear seat pockets on each side. And real quick here, I'll go ahead and lower this. A little hard to do that one-handed. There is your fold down armrest with the cup holders built in, and you don't have a sliding power rear window, but it is something you can open, and you can see that it has the defogger on it as well. And I would have shown you the process of raising the seat cushions like this. You just use the release right there to do that on both sides, but it's hard to do that one-handed. So holding the camera with one hand makes that kind of challenging. But you can see that you not only have some storage potential underneath the seats here, but you also have the tools for changing a tire. All of that is there. So let's reach up here and we'll grab the handle and hop inside. Now keep in mind, these seats are pretty far back, but you know what? I still have a lot of leg room. Let's see. I also have some headspace. At 5'10", I still have a decent amount of space above my head. So somebody 6 foot definitely could fit back here. Even 6'1", probably be okay. Maybe not any taller than that. You will find the cup holders built in to the rear of the center console. We'll also have the air conditioning vents, a couple of USB ports, and another one of those power outlets down there on the lower portion of the center console. And just because I know there are still some people who don't know about this, here is how you activate or deactivate the child safety locks on these rear doors. It's via this switch right here. When it's in this up position towards the lock, they're deactivated. When it's in this down position in the direction of that arrow, they are activated. And why would you want to know about that? Not only because, well, you just may not know, but if you go out in the middle of nowhere and decide to check out the confines of the back seat of your brand new Canyon, make sure at least one side is deactivated. That way you don't get stuck back here. If there's no one to help you out, you have to crawl through the pass-through, or if the windows aren't rolled down. There's a lot of different scenarios to that. Something to consider, just because I know it has actually happened. I've talked to people at dealerships, sales staff, who have dealt with that problem and had to explain it to customers. One thing I wish GMC would have done here, In my personal opinion, it would have been nice to have had the rear seat storage right here on all trim levels. That would be nice, just like we see on the SLT and above on the 1500s. Really like that feature. Tell me what your thoughts are. Is that something you would like to see on these Canyons? And we'll continue our tour of the fully redesigned interior, looking in through the passenger side front door. Again, a very similar look to what we had on the rear, but you will notice some changes with the design of the door bin, a little bit larger. Gonna have an upper door bin up here, so quite a bit going on there, still nice and comfortable. And we'll have the power adjustable seats for the driver and the passenger, heated and ventilated. And we talked about the interior colors earlier of jet black and timber. You'll also notice the AT4 logo embroidered into the seats. Kind of a nice change, because a lot of car makers, or truck makers in this case, will put that kind of thing up here on the headrest. So I like the fact that GMC did something a little bit different just to set themselves apart. Never anything wrong with that. And obviously, with a truck that is very capable of off-road, having rubber floor mats is a plus. And we'll take a quick look into the glove box here just to show you there is a lot of space in there. Another AT4 logo right there, and a very nice design. It really looks quite upscale, we'll say. Maybe that's not the best terminology to use, but that's what I'll call it for now until we come up with something better. A lot of contrast stitching throughout the interior, and a very nice look overall. There is the wireless charging pad. We're going to have more connectivity here with a couple of USB options. There is the shifter, and we'll go through the driving modes in just a little bit. When we turn the ignition on, there is your power parking brake. Also going to have cup holders and a good size, and what I believe is at a good height, center console. So you have the multitasking lid, because it's not only the lid, it's also an armrest. And what does it reveal when we open the center console? Well, don't worry, that's not all the space that there is. You have the nice removable tray right there that you can leave out if you want to, but there is a lot of space within this area, and a 12-volt power outlet that can serve a multitude of purposes in a multitude of ways, depending on what you need to do with this vehicle. And there is a sunroof here. We didn't talk about that earlier. It is conventional size. Tell me what your thoughts are. Were you hoping for a panoramic sunroof, or does it just not matter? So we'll walk up and I'll show you what I was talking about earlier. Push the button right there. You hear it unlock all 4 doors. And when we open the driver's side door, sure, you're going to see a few things that are a little different here, a little bit of addition in the way of controls for the windows, the power side view mirrors. But the biggest difference between the driver and the passenger side door is that here on the driver's side, and I personally believe at this price point that it should be on the passenger side as well, and that is the setting for seat memory. You have a couple of different settings there, so if you have 2 drivers, well, you can set everything up for those 2 drivers. The third driver is just going to be on their own. But that is the situation. So let's hop on inside and we'll take a look at what comes across the screens when we get inside. Animated graphics, as you can see. Tell me what you think about that. Some people don't care. Some people think it's really cool. Everybody has their preferences. So we're going to hit the push button start right here and take a look at the very nicely done instrument cluster, or redesigned instrument cluster, I should say. Looks very nice, very well done by GMC. I believe they did a good job here. And so, as you can see, there's a lot going on there, and you can go through a lot of different information. We're not going to take the time to do all of that, but you can see that there are different adjustments and different things you can do. So anyhow, very simple. You have your steering wheel mounted controls here, and speaking of your steering wheel mounted controls, you do have a heated steering wheel. Seems a little strange to talk about that right now, considering the fact that it is as warm as it is. One of the biggest changes here is going to be found right here, the 11.3-inch touchscreen. Fully redesigned, looks a lot more modern than the previous generation did, and yet it retains the old school knob for controlling the volume on the stereo, on the radio, turning that on and off, all that good stuff. A lot of people like that. If GMC got rid of that, they would probably have people saying, we want that back. You will have maps built in. I don't know if I can get that to come up right now. No, I can't. And you do have Google Assistant built in here. I'm not going to demonstrate that because excuse me, I know that I could set off a lot of devices in your homes. So we won't do that. I'm going to be nice and not do that. But you can see what all is here. Obviously, you do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I haven't paired my phone, so those are grayed out at the moment. But you can see what all is here. A very nice look, that's for sure. And here's something that looks really nice. We can see what's going on with the truck when you're off-road. You've got Baja, you have terrain, and then overlanding right here. A very nice look as far as that goes. I think that GMC has done a nice job with the graphics here. So much that we could do a singular video on these features by themselves. And, well, it would be absolutely no problem. And as you can see, we can hit camera right there. We're going to get that to come up. Well, let's see if it'll come up for us. There we go. So there is our forward-facing camera. I showed you that earlier. You obviously have the rear view camera that all vehicles are going to come with nowadays, no matter the trim level. But obviously the higher trim levels will have more cameras than that. You can see your overhead views. There are the views from those cameras mounted on the side view mirrors. I showed you one of those earlier. You can see your overhead 360-degree view as well. There's a lot here. In fact, that's not all there is, as you can see. So we have quite a bit going on. You will never have any trouble finding your way out of situations if you're in a tight spot off-road, if you're in a tight spot because you have bad drivers who didn't know how to park, who parked around you wherever you're out shopping or doing whatever it is you're doing. Well, you can deal with that appropriately. Obviously, we have dual zone climate control here. We've got 3 settings for heated. We are leaving that off. We have 3 settings for ventilated. We're leaving that on because it is rather warm today. And you can see how everything works there as far as that goes. And I probably don't need to tell you too much about the one-touch buttons down here as far as what we have. We're going to turn that fan speed down just so we don't drown you out with anything. And there's your wireless charging pad, as I mentioned earlier. A convenient place, I'd say, for that. And then a conventional style shifter. Obviously, you're going to get all those camera views to come up. The good news, you don't have to be in reverse to use that, as I mentioned earlier and showed you earlier. So that's a big benefit in a multitude of ways. So let's talk a little bit more about driving modes. I told you this is the drive mode selector, so let's go through and see exactly what they are. There's off-road, very nice graphics. I think GMC has, again, done a really good job here. Added value. You've got your tow haul mode, and you have your terrain mode. We're going to go to normal right here, and you'll see the changes in the graphics. We'll spend a little more time on terrain right there since I kind of rushed through that. There we go. Trying to get that to stay up. So apparently it goes back to normal unless we are maybe off-road or on terrain. I don't know. Whatever the case is, that's what we get. But you can see what is there. And then if you want to get out of that screen, well, there you go. You do that. There is plenty here. But the good news for those of you who maybe are coming from a first or second generation Canyon, or maybe you're coming from maybe an S10 or something like that, a GMC Jimmy, and you're saying to yourself, I've waited long enough, I have to buy a new vehicle. That technology is intimidating to me. In some vehicles, that's understandable. Here, it's very simple to learn and use. You will not have any trouble whatsoever learning this technology, especially if you've learned your cell phone, if you have a smartphone, and I don't know who doesn't in this day and age. Don't be afraid of the technology here. Now, the one last thing we have to do is get out on the road for a proper test drive. Let's see how that goes. Okay, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do any true off-roading today, but driving through the streets of Shreveport, Louisiana is similar to off-roading to a degree, so we'll do our best. But one thing I have to say, this is the first time I've been able to do an extended test drive in one of these new Canyons. I've driven one probably a half a mile at most before because it was already pre-purchased, so I didn't get to drive it very far, just to my shooting location, the dealership and back. So the one thing I notice here that, in my opinion, is a lot better, this truck feels more confident on the road than did the previous generation, at least based on my experience. Other people may say something opposite of that. They may say that it doesn't feel as good or feels the same, but that's what I have to say. But I do like the way this truck drives. I like the way it rides. One thing I did not mention earlier, and I don't know that you could really see it on the screen, there is a head-up display here, by the way. So something else that you're going to have for what you're paying on this AT4 trim level, there's a lot here. And you hear some of that noise back there. That's actually from my ice chest with the little ice block sitting on top of a few plastic bottles. So that's not the fit and finish of the Canyon that you're hearing. If my lapel mic is picking that up, I'm not sure if it is or not, but in case you heard that, I want to make sure that I make that point. Overall, I really have to say I'm impressed. There's obviously more rear seat space. There seems to be more space here in the front seat as well. I just feel more comfortable than I remember feeling in older models. I did a 22, I don't know when it was, several months ago, and it just didn't feel the same as this does. And obviously you have the latest in technology from GMC for this mid-size truck, as you can see on the screen here and other places as well. I think GMC has done a really good job here. It would be nice to maybe have a pressed truck, a pressed Canyon, where I could really go out and put it through its paces and see what it does off-road. But unfortunately, I don't think my friends at Morgan Buick GMC would be really happy with me if I did that today, but I'm pretty sure it would be in good shape. They say it's more off-road capable than it's ever been before. I think it probably is. Seems to be pretty easy to see out of. You do have the blind spot monitoring here, so in a way that really defeats any issues such as blind spots. But if you set your mirrors correctly, it's not going to be an issue anyway. Overall, I have to give high marks here for GMC with this new Canyon. I think they've done a good job. It seems to ride better, even though it's more off-road capable than it was in the past. I'm impressed with the technology here. It's modern, it looks good, everything looks as it should, it doesn't look antiquated, and at the same time, it's very easy to learn and use, so you really can't go wrong here. And I probably put it on the screen in editing, but in case I didn't and you don't know about it, I don't think I mentioned the displacement of the engine under the hood earlier. It is a 2.7 liter four-cylinder. By the way, in case you were wondering about acceleration, well, let me get past this driveway we're going to pass right here, and then we'll slow down a little bit and we'll see how it does. Don't want to get into it too much since it's brand new, but I can tell you that actually is a little surprising. It got up and ran pretty good. I didn't quite bring it all the way to the floor, maybe a little over 3/4 throttle to do what I just did right there. I was already moving at about 50 miles an hour or so when I dropped the hammer, but I have to say, that was impressive. So for those of you who are saying, well, what is it like to accelerate in that truck? You won't have any trouble getting up to highway speeds. You won't have any trouble safely passing people when you need to do so on 2-lane roads or whatever the case is. So that is what you get for a sticker price of $53,070 when it comes to the 2023 GMC Canyon AT4. Tell me what you think about that. Do you think this truck is better than it has ever been? Tell me what your answer is, and tell me why you answered the way that you did. I look forward to reading your comments. I have to say a special thanks to my friends at Morgan Buick GMC for loaning me this AT4 for the day, the Canyon. And a special thanks to each and every one of you for being kind enough to give me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn about other vehicles you may wish to consider purchasing, check out the video that's on the screen right now. And I will see you there.